Just so you know, we're going to have fruit everywhere. And that is because of this.
Into the ring. McIntyre, of course, was world champion at WrestleMania. And he defeated just over 5 minutes. 5:36 McIntyre off the ball. Then he made a big back down after he was distracted by Cena. 80% of the money the guy went over the years for a world championship.
And that's a level up.
McIntyre's champion numerous times. He's at his best, he's unstoppable. Balor is his first goes big Balor. Man, Kizzle from the West Coast. Big man, that way.
You want more?
Tonight. Wait a minute! Belly to belly! Balor bounces off the table into the barricade! McIntyre in control! This is insane! Monday Night Raw is sold out here tonight, Toledo, Ohio. This is our main event. Finn Balor and Drew McIntyre. So much riding for McIntyre in this matchup. If he beats Balor, it ensures that all of Judgment Day will be barred from ringside for McIntyre's World Championship match versus Damian Priest Saturday, Clash at the Castle. McIntyre, of course, will be a hometown favorite in Glasgow. Real home field advantage for McIntyre.
Drew won the University in Glasgow.
Oh, nice side Russian leg sweep. Balor now trying to turn this into a submission. McIntyre's in trouble middle of the ring. Trying to block here. Critical moment for McIntyre. McIntyre trying to power out of this.
He stretched there for a moment.
Well-placed elbows by the Scottish Warrior.
Drew went to University in Glasgow. That's South.
Look at both the kids because they're not winning from the winner of this match. Whoever that may be. Don't be intimidated. Oh my goodness, and that chop woke McIntyre up.
Like an alarm clock there for Drew McIntyre.
And Balor realizing, I'm not sure why I did that. McIntyre. Sending Balor across the ring, misses wildly. McIntyre caught him that time. Oh, maybe not. Oh, what a counter by Finn Balor. Cover, almost pulled it off. And now into an armbar. Balor doing everything he can to take out McIntyre in this match.
Yeah.
This is incredible. What a counter by Balor. And the armbar applied. McIntyre trying to fight his way out again, trying to use his power, lift Balor up off the mat, into the air. Down goes Balor. That sit-out powerbomb by Drew breaks the armbar and leaves both men down center of the ring. What a power there by Drew.
He has that capability at any time. And in front of a sold-out arena here in Toledo, Ohio, we got two greats battling.
McIntyre with a clothesline. And another one, he's starting to build a bit of momentum. There's a belly-to-belly throw sending Balor across the ring.
The longer this match goes, the more energy that Drew McIntyre is wasting before Clash at the Castle.
Another great throw to Balor.
The Finn. Neck breaker.
Sound like McIntyre making excuses. You know, chip up by McIntyre.
Like the Syracuse, it's a practice match almost.
It's Balor. Nuts.
It's an ex-champion. One last live score.
McIntyre looking for a claymore. Balor with a sling blade to counter.
Finn Balor.
The average is 3 out of 3. Balor now has McIntyre. Zachary Watson. And Balor drives through into the corner. Drew feeling that. Balor continues to put on the pressure. Right down to the arm of McIntyre. Oh, and a classical kiss to Balor on the top rope.
What armor should I take? One big son of a bitch.
What would it be like if you couldn't just come to a game and drop hundreds of dollars, turn all the cards right away, so explicit?
Well, I never thought I would see the day I would hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I know I started to play through Skyrim at the height. However, I ran into quite a few issues with that I'm still working out. So instead, since Fallout is in the air, today we will replicate another run from Skyrim, as today we will attempt to beat Fallout 4 as an ant, or as small as possible. Oh boy, another miserable experience with that. So as for the rules for the run, I have to play through the entire game at a 0.1 scale, or otherwise using me and player.set scale 0.1 for the entire run, and if I have to grow for any reason to get past obstacles, then the run is failed. As for when the game makes me size up because of cutscenes and such, well, we'll get to that later. Otherwise, for the run, I'm allowed to use any weapon, and I can't use any companions unless they're required for a quest, and no major glitches, though there really aren't any major ones left besides mod swapping I can do anymore. Nothing really else for the rules and such. With that out of the way, let's get started on this music. So when creating my character, I didn't feel like spending time making a character because things will be dragged to a crawl almost immediately, so instead I just went with the default option. As soon as I got control, which is pretty fast compared to Skyrim, I dropped my character's size down to the minimum, and yeah, we are moving at a snail's pace. I wish my apartment was this big and not a broom closet. So when it comes to picking my special stats, besides I'm in the mood to play Pokemon lately, I went with the more general build. Strength would be useless for me for melee combat, but there is a perk I do want to work for later. Perception for Refractor, and more or less your run-of-the-mill special stats I tend to go for runs. Once that was done, I slowly crawled my way to Sean, who was probably twice the size of me, and I was able to play with him somehow. Truth be told, I was worried I wouldn't be able to interact with the crib, and the run would fail before it began, but I can proceed. Eventually, I was led outside, and I watched as the world begins to blink in and out of existence, and that is going to be the story for the entire run. And yeah, I am running super slow. Throughout this entire running section, I was very concerned I would be too slow and the nuke would detonate early. But thankfully that was not the case, and I could descend into the vault to have a door get closed on my head, and watch poorly my wife get shot dead. Hey, that right. So, when I emerged from the cryopod, I am of an almost normal size, so I guess the run is filled before things really get started. But since I wanted to suffer, I reset my size to small, and began to escape out of the vault. This escape section is interesting. So, funny thing about creation in the game, your character size affects your running speed, and also melee damage. As for the first Brad wrote, yeah, I think melee build is impossible, even with the Yalguai roast, so I'm going to have to damage boost my way out of the vault. I can't grab the baton because I am too small to see it. I am at the very least lucky roaches cannot open doors. In the generator room, I tried to damage boost my way past the roaches, but I'm taking too much damage and they were blocking me, so I could not get on through until I was next to them. And there were 2 more roaches ahead of me to steal my fate. Next go around, I decided to play things smart. By smart, I mean playing around live wires. I can't really question my chances. It gives results and the roaches were shocked at that. Next group, I let the roaches out of the door and close it on them so I could get on through, and also drink some water, filling myself up to full. And I get a 5th skull in the next room, which is not affected by my size. So the next hurdle, I am too small to use terminals, so I have to blindly guess the menus using audio cues. It gives results and I can get further inside. So before getting out of the vault, I have to contend with a lot of roaches, and I can shoot at their heads for a 1 to 2 shots, so the rest of the vault isn't a total nightmare at least. Also, big when comparison to Skyrim's Ant Run, my attacks don't clip in the ground, so already a much more bearable run. As for the Pip-Boy, I thought I would have to wear the Pip-Boy as a shell, but thankfully it had shrinking technology to conform to my size. Eventually, before too long, I am out of the vault and back on the overworld. It only took 30 minutes versus Skyrim's hour. Already a much better run. So first things first, as to not bore you on the details of me getting scrappy in Sanctuary, some blowflies somehow taking out half of my health. I do craft quite a few fence books at level 2 for the idiots of my perk as usual. It describes me to a T, hence why I'm doing this challenge. I make it to the Red Rocket, and the docket I found to be pretty hilarious all things considered. While I was at the truck stop, I was jumped by an army of angry mole rats. Frankly, it scared the living hell out of me. At this point, I decided why not, I could help Preston out with his radar problem today, even if I wasn't going to side with the Minutemen this playthrough. When I got to Concord, he had already cleared out everyone in town. I guess that is the result of moving at a snail's pace. I did want the laser musket because for my grand plan it will help out quite a bit, and I also love energy weapons as they are. So unlike Skyrim's run, things aren't quite as dangerous for me, as while the raiders are shooting at me, they're having a hard time hitting me because my hitbox might as well be a pixel to them. Plus they are pretty far away also. One raider tried to burn herself alive also. While I was here I grabbed the fusion core, the rest of the place plays out as it normally would for a playthrough, just taking twice as long. Eventually I talked to Preston, grabbed a perception bobblehead, and climbed to the roof. So it was nice that the power armor conformed to my small size, and I can also rip off the minigun with ease. Yeah, the town was not happy with my weaponry blinking in and out of existence. That, and I was also turning red quickly. Eventually, the angry iguana came out of the sewers and wanted to tussle, and tussle it did. Had to use up quite a few of my healing supplies, but with probably 1,000 bullets in its body, the lizard goes down. When I went to leave the power armor, the game sets me to regular size. So I have to restring, so I guess to run the skill there. So instead I reloaded right before getting the power armor. Second go around, things were more interesting. Well, besides having to slowly carve my way through town again, when the death claw appeared, I was out of vision and I was able to crouch and sneak my way back towards the museum. And when I was close enough, I aggroed the death claw and ducked inside. Here I stayed out of slapping distance, as I used up a good amount of my junk ammo. Meanwhile, Preston gave it a few tickles in the back. Used up quite a good chunk of my weaponry, but eventually the cell meter goes down for another nap. Back inside the museum, I had a hell of a time leaving the place because I was last in line, but I was able to return to the sanctuary. Preston asked me to do settlement quest. I lied to him. Hell no, I'm not going to suffer through settlement quest again. But at least I got some essential experience in the process, since I'm going to need a lot of experience for the run. I actually can't beat the game with a Minuteman because I have to swim through the ocean to get into the instant. And given my small stature, that is something I probably cannot do. Oh well, back in Concord I walked down the road a bit until I got to the diner. Wolfgang wanted nothing to do with me and booked it out of there, but Swift Wasteland Justice put them down. After that was I need to hike my way down the road, asking for big assembly plans since I'm not allowing myself to use power armor for the run, plus no Minuteman thing. I decided to help the Brotherhood with their fights. However, dummy and me decided to walk right into downtown where all the feral ghouls are, and I suck at CQC. I used up quite a few of my healing supplies, just trying to get my bearings straight. Eventually, I am able to make it to dance and we cleared out the hordes of ghouls. By we, it was more dance doing all the heavy work while I struggled with trapping. It was pretty easy experience and I wanted some supplies, and while we were talking, a car decided to blow itself up to add tension to the conversation. Once I was done at the police station, I wandered around for a bit walking towards Suggs because he can be pretty overpowered. Today he wasn't feeling up to it. And also today I had my eyes on another creepy club weapon added in the recent patch. After this, there really wasn't much going on as I wandered towards Diamond City, marking a few locations for later. Before Diamond City, the guards had a shootout with some super mutants and one of the guards did not make it, so I stole his armor. Pretty considerable upgrade at this point. At the gates of Diamond City, I bashed Pepper for -1 damage to let me in. Since I'm going to need some more supplies for my dumb idea, that will help out quite a bit and also hurt immensely. Once I was happy, I left town to head to Good Neighbor. On my way there, I had a fun little shootout with a legendary super mutant at Trinity Tower. Sure, he could have probably cleared the tower, but I didn't feel like doing it today. I hit up a couple more locations for later, like Carson Station, and entered the better towns for the people. I wanted to get a basic headshot on Finn, but it seems I was punching his point too low and failed. We had a shootout in town. No idea why nobody tried to step in, but oh well. I was here because I wanted to stand in the menu, since I'm going to need one for an upcoming fight. So with my Delmark all ready as I can be, I thought sure, why not, let's go to Glowing Sea at level 7. I left from South to Diamond City and wandered my way towards the coast. Despite the area being very dangerous on the heat map, it was a pretty dangerous route on towards the destination. I wanted to do the best of 3 quests. On my way there, I thought I could swim through water, but my aunt issued from Skyrim reared its ugly head, and I was swept away into current. Thankfully, I stayed next to a bridge, so I decided to cross there. I still got to contend with a few super mutants, along with some scouts. From your summer's old a specialty of enough to follow. Here I followed the route east and connected to Glowing Sea. I think because of my small size, the radiation doesn't start affecting me so much.
Donald Trump thinks he's a king, after being charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election while he was president.
Which helped out because of my speed issue. Not much to contend with, it was a pretty peaceful dog into the Glowing Sea, just trying to avoid the stingwings as they called away from it. I like to charge here casually, bring in a full suit of power armor and crush all the ghouls inside with one fell swoop. But today I don't have that luxury. Instead I used a couple of grenades that found a good use and took out like half the ghouls in one throw. then shooting my way through the rest of them. Before too long, I'm at the second gunner, and more notes. Hey. After that was done, I continued my rampage east to a little radio tower with another gunner. Then out of him pops an army of festering blowflies, and they were taking quite a few shots to take down, and I thought I was pretty dead. However, they have aim that would make stormtroopers blush. I would just sit still and take one shot after one, and they all finally went down, avoiding every single attack. So now comes the hardest part of the mission, the boss fight. Creature Club bosses are never skilled properly, and once I read the note I had to deal with Coroni, but he decided to run away and kill a Deathclaw instead that I saw later after the fight. I had to slowly crawl my way to him since he booked it, and once he saw me I had to fight for my life. My plan was to fire off a mini nuke, and surprisingly it only took out half of his health, and his Tesla cannon can 2 to 3 shot me. Yeah, I die here quite a bit. Eventually, I was able to get a winning strategy. Launched a nuke at him, instead of bank a critical for this to be honest. Hide behind cover and fire at him. The Tesla cannon has splash damage, so I'm in trouble, so the hiding part doesn't work out quite as well. I spammed every drug I found I tried, and it became a long drawn-out stalemate, and I burned through pretty much all my healing supplies really quickly. Eventually, Coroni was down to a sliver of health. I was out of stimbacks, and I had to trust in the forest. And with one shot from death, I was able to land a headshot and Coroni fell, and I could claim the Tesla cannon for myself. Really won't bite me in the butt here a little bit. So with that all done, I was next to death and I had nothing to me, so I had to stop by Diamond City again to resupply and fill my rats. Here I wanted to be cheeky and blast Kyle, but the splash damage alerted the entire town and I ended up dying. But again, I was also blasting myself with the splash damage, so I let Kyle lose his head. Once I had some supplies and back to a decent spot, I thought I'd have to go with Swan. The weapon is strong, sure, and it hits pretty often, so I could have been able to take down Swan under normal circumstances. However, I have movement issues, so Swan will be able to catch up to me really quickly, and gave me the giant treatment. I'll come back once I have more perks under my belt. Still on my search for prep work, I decided to return to the police station. You would think I should fear Park Street Station since I'm in the area, but you see, my brain is the perfectly polished computer to no question. Things got very chaotic on my way to Archjet. Seems that me getting the Tesla cannon has earned the interest of the Enclave, so I was ambushed and died almost immediately. These guys are monsters and I die pretty often here in this encounter. So the ambush death squad will ambush you from behind, so the attempt I was able to live, I had my back turned to the end so the Enclave could not be next to him, so he could have the aggro from the Hellfire Soldier. I blasted him until he went down, since he had the flamethrower that was causing me a lot of hell. The rest went down with relative ease, and if I was using car armor, I would have used the best armor in the game, but I can't. Oh well. So the rest of the trip to Archjet was of little interest. Dan spilled everything ahead of me. Same held true for Archjet. I was so slow, so Dan's would aggro and wipe out the entire room before I could save Hoyo. Nothing much happened in Archjet, until I came across all I could describe was hell. It wasn't some uber-powerful synth, it was hacking a computer. Blind. I had to press up and down on the keyboard until I somehow found a keyword and pray that it worked. And eventually it did. At this point I wanted some energy cells, so I let the toaster play with his buddies, while I went back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. The best Animal Crossing game, don't ask me. Once I fired up the Heavenly Light 2 bots, I picked up every item I can, and I ended up with over 1,500 fusion cells. Enough to see me for the rest of the run, and then some. Sans went ahead and cleared out the facility for me and mission completed. I get a lot of experience for being a tag-along, and at this point, I'm uncertain if I will go with the Railroad or the Brotherhood at this point. So good to have this on the back burner. Once that was done, I went down the road a bit to Fort Hagen. On my way there, I roasted a Yao Boy alive. Otherwise, not much happened and I got my fast travel destination. At this point, I returned to Sanctuary and upgraded the receiver to Wave Oscillator. While I could go for Overkill for mods, they require Science level 3 and I only know to pass level 22 for the run. With an upgrade to my firepower, I entered Park Street Station. So for the Triggerman, I was very trigger happy, and I can finally put my Tesla cannon to good use. And much like Teslas in real life, they do pack a very explosive punch. I love using the power of an alien thunder god, and this weapon is super powerful, just I'm pretty slow getting to places. As for the inside of the vault, I am sadly in close quarters, and this is where the gun struggles with. It has splash damage and it can damage user, nowhere close to the risk of the piggy bank had, but I do need to play it safe. And while I'm here, I could mention the Tesla cannon has no reload animation, meaning you can spam it infinitely. So nothing really happened as I crawled my way through the vault. My build is starting to stabilize at this point, just takes a while getting through the place. About 40 minutes total, which is still far faster than any Skyrim does it. I committed Dino from afar and rescued Valentine. Then began the escape sequence, which really isn't much of one, as Nick becoming the main character outrunning his companion. Maybe this is payback for all the escort quests I leave the escort behind or something. As for Skinny Malone, I instilled the power of 69 million gigawatts of pain, and the resulting blast was enough to wipe out the entire crew in one shot. Mission completed. Left the vault and the quest, and we returned to Diamond City to become one with the chair, then began snooping around the cereal factory. But I had to talk to the mayor and secretary for a piece of the house. They weren't being nice, so I guess I'm back to rolling a 44% of the other and keep my money in check. Back at Kellogg's house, I take everything that isn't nailed down, talk to dog meat, and work with Fort Hagen. Inside the fort, unlike the last one, things aren't really too bad. I mean, this place is hard to navigate thanks to my splash damage, but not insta-kills on me. Dogmeat made things annoying as usual, as he would not go away at all, but nothing is new. The Sims weren't really much of a threat. For my small size and refractor perk, they do take more pain than other enemies, requiring 2 shots instead of 1 because energy resistance, but oh well. As for the basement, nothing to note really happened, but the energy bubblehead will help things out quite a bit. Just find a lot of electronics along the way. As for Kellogg, well, my weapon is overpowered. Time to make this Rice Krispie treat snap, crackle, and pop from a blast of electricity. With every robot circuit sprite, I grabbed my brain matter chip, flying menus again, then left to see the Fridwood move in. I reminded them that it is dangerous to fly a blimp during a thunderstorm, then returned to Diamond City to get the story on the road. So after conversing with the gang, I returned to Good Neighbor and began the memory den. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it took 15 minutes. What is normally slow gets even more so today. Here's my trip down memory lane. I was reminded of when I wasn't quite small enough for a brief day. I get the needed info, talk to Amari, and now I can begin the glowing sea once again. So, since I already made it halfway across the glowing sea getting my OP weapon, the trip to Virgil's Cave really wasn't that long today, besides reminding the bugs that flying types are weak to electric types. Otherwise, the only other creature I came across in my adventure was a Duckclaw outside Virgil's Cave. I had the high ground, and the gecko had no chance. After that was done, I talked to Virgil, who was very suspicious of a man the size of a toenail with a portable thunderstorm. I too would suspect this is Institute Witchcraft. So next up on this pain train is Green Tech. The journey wasn't really that tough, just more time consuming today. Besides trying to shoot at Ann and avoiding all their attacks, there really weren't much to write home about. I thought I was going to hit a run-ending scenario with a slope, since it would not let me up, but all it took was reminding the game that it is brother to Skyrim and it lets me up. I was able to get the jump on the gunner with the missile launcher, and they never brought out the big gun. The rest of the building wasn't all too bad. I was a little paranoid going across the floorboard. Next room I just pointed and clicked and all the gunners struck down with ease. What's for the core search? I really wasn't paying attention to the core search at all, and I just started blasting in a general direction. Once I realized where the closer was, I zapped him dead and claimed his food. I also blasted the tent because things such a nice guy. Once my business inside Green Tech was done, I had the high ground and a weapon with no fall-off, so I decided to have some fun. First I blasted repeatedly into the pit where the high-level tools are for a lot of experience, then I blasted down at the raiders from below. I don't even think they knew what was happening. This much about Thorfield by getting fun. So after this was done, I left for Good Neighbor to pay the railroading visit. On my way to the North Church, I did have some fun with some mongrels and raiders, zapping them to death. After that was done, I made it into the church, where I put the Wrath of God into the ghouls. Once things were all cleared out, I typed in the totally secure password into the railroad's wall, they need better security. So, against my instinct, I don't start blasting at them, since I have a feeling I would need to work with the railroad in order to actually beat the run. I let Tom decode the chip, watch Desmona walk away from me, really tempting to press left mouse button, talk to the sky, then get my mission from Deacon. So I was kind of wanting to avoid the railroads this time, since their questline is basically the Institute questline with a few extra steps in there. And I did the Institute last time, so I returned to the Cambridge police station to talk to Dan to take me up to the Fridwen so I can finally do the Brotherhood's questline after done and dashing them for the last several weeks. But that will come back to backfire here in a little bit. I get up on the vertibird, get a very forward view of the Commonwealth, and arrive at the blimp. Still here on the blimp, I heavily confuse the Brotherhood members here by my stature, but then again you need to remember that ants can lift 50 times their weight. I talk to the irritating elder, then begin my tour of the ship. So, funny thing, I cannot progress the Brotherhood's questline, and the reason is extremely stupid. I straight up cannot talk to Tegan. I can initiate dialogue, but I can't do any of the dialogue branches, since if I were to grow up, I would definitely fail the challenge. So I guess we are taking the rails. In my frustration, I went to the racetrack and bet all my money on the ant with a portable atomizer. Since I'm going to have to be siding with the railroad, it's time to get their questline started. I began by heading south from the diner, then talking to Deacon. We slowly crawled our way across the bridge until we got to Ricky, and began crawling through the sewers. The stints inside here were of the easy variety and went down with little fuss. The big fuzz was strength and I have to throw through the puddles, so that was fun. Also no aqua boy first because I like paint. The rest of the sewer crawl really wasn't much to write home about. I laid down the zappies, crawled through a tunnel, and came across another terminal I was able to blind hack. Throughout the excursion, Deacon was by my side, right literally, and it was pretty annoying. But then again, when your backup has a portable Death Star beam, I sure would let him do all the shooting. Eventually grabbed the prototype, mission complete, and then we left. Before returning to the railroad, my small brain finally remembered that Virgil exists, so I talked to him, get schematics on the back of a napkin, then returned to the railroad to begin working on building a teleporter. Thankfully, my strategy goes well, and I have just to be after that was done, I built it, worked it. Inside the first room, I had to blindly insert the scanner and do that menu until I got the info I needed to proceed further. Well, I descended down the elevator, he had a very confused Roboshon, wondering why a toy proclaims he is his father, then talked to the regular father to get Institute stuff started. I did the meet and greet of the faculty, then talked to Liam and his synth friend to get the ball rolling on the railroad prerequisites. Once that was all done, I talked to Desdemona about our little game plan, then typed stuff on a terminal blindly, and get info to go to Polyamor Lab. I really hate this place casually, even more so today. I thought I could be taking Kill Molly before going to the science fair so I don't get locked in, but she cloned herself, so I have to do overtime anyway. Well, at this point I just fired on the ghouls, but I kept blasting myself really close, and I was taken to the pearly gate. So I can go around and play things from afar and cleared out the room. I went around grabbing test tubes, and got my password from the terminal. I had a hell of a time trying to navigate. Eventually I opened the reactor room, blasted the glow stick, and got my radioactive isotope. Then I had to blind guess which elements to use. Eventually, after throwing enough science at the wall, I found a combination that stuck, and I was allowed to leave. I followed Molly up to the director's office, fired his arse, and I was only given $25 for all my effort in unpaid overtime, and get laid off immediately. I blasted Molly and get a level up. I hated this place, even more so as an ace. Next up, I gave Liam the password, and the final part before it becomes the Institute ending is blasting at some guards. They were all bunched up in one big ball, and I had splash damage. Their circuit boards were all fried to hell and back. I gave the agents the good news, and the new objective is to play the Institute ending until towards the end. I talked to Father and began Libertalia. So I hate X6. He wants to keep a close eye on me. By close, I mean trying to run right into me and be right next to me. Personal space, man. It was nighttime, so I could blast things from the shadows. Well, it is hard to miss an ant-to-man lightning. It was a slow job, and I was always on edge of my travels because of X6 getting pushed into the water. Because if I do get pushed in, I might as well be drowned. I was worried for the most part about the raider with the fat man on the ship, but I was able to sneak strike him, somehow. That headache was done. So I could not take the shortcut up the wires to Libertalia, so I had to cross the planks to slower way. Just meant more time for raider slaughter. There was a small boardwalk that was supposed to be a tightrope walk casually, but thanks to my stature, it's more just a normal sized bridge. During the crossing, a board decided to set itself to vibrate. Eventually I was able to make it to the elevator up to the ship, and since I already smited the raiders from afar, it was a quick and uneventful trip to the top, where I factory reset Gabriel, then Zeus' buddies to the afterlife. Back inside the Institute, I get my next mission for the Battle of Bunker Hill. However, I have other plans in mind. I talked to Desdemona about the upcoming battle, and she says to kill the Institute and protect the runaways. Heading to the Courser, I wandered into the wrong neighborhood and proceeded to smite some super mutants and raiders. As for the Courser, from my last run, I remember having to use a truck to get across the gap. You would think the run would probably end here, but you see, you can just kill the Courser right as you meet him, so I offed his head. Father really isn't best pleased that the battle had a 99% probability of succeeding, and had the 1% chance of failing. However, this is me we're talking about. That 1% is actually a 45% chance. I get away with my actions and can continue being undercover. Before returning underground, I reminded the local raiders who was in charge. Back at the Institute, I attended a meeting, have to get out of my chair to talk to Father, then get the news that he is going to sadly die. It places the Institute in my charge. I'm pretty sure any detractors could just step on me and be done with it. Just have to avoid my smiter. I get the game plan and take the teleporter to mass fusion. You know, Brotherhood, this could have all been avoided if you didn't cage up Tegan. Once I made it up on the roof, I just started to blast at the poor Brotherhood soldiers. They do have really good energy resistance, especially the ones in power armor, which isn't ideal, but have more than enough ammo to destroy every faction. Another terminal, but thankfully it was an easy menu without visuals. I tried to do the elevator skip, but I'm too vertically and more importantly horizontally challenged to make it across the gap to Good Neighbor. While I take the slow elevator right down, shooting down the dumb knights like a shooting gallery game. Eventually they blew out the elevator, so we had to crawl around a bit to find the switch and turn the juice back on. Things weren't really that interesting heading on into the basement. I crawled around in the radioactive muck in a hazmat suit, which I'm very glad they give you one, otherwise I would come out with an additional ant on me. It wasn't dangerous, all things considered, just very time consuming. What was dangerous, however, was coming out of the room. Seems the sentry bot spawned as a legendary variant, and it got way too close for comfort and I continued to be my own worst enemy. Second go I didn't learn anything, but this time I was able to live. Mostly. The assault runs went down much easier thanks to not having 2 health pools to sit through. With enough lightning strikes I was able to come out on top. As for escaping the dungeon, we were visited by a bunch of Brotherhood Knights, but since I'm out for blood, I decided to zap indiscriminately at friend or foe alike until everyone in the room was dead. This is the result of having unlimited power at your fingertips. Or boredom. Once that was done, I finally remembered about Swan. And after that I had fun with the Vertibird. Too bad both failed to acknowledge that playing types that I was still electric still. With that all done, now comes the slow part of the Institute, mostly some junk missions until the finale. First Father talks to me about Wallace, which I did after wasting the local Mr. Handy. Then the Gunners. Despite my weakness to grenades, they weren't too bad all things considered. Inside the burnt down house, I failed to convince Wallace, so that's the power teleportation for you to make up for my shortcomings. And illegal kidnappings. The next mission had me spread fear and propaganda through a microphone, then fiddle around with electronics in Diamond City and powering up a reactor. Then having to talk to the council about the future. When that was all done, I got news that the railroad was under attack, so endgame time. I returned to the railroad and it was under attack. Thankfully, everyone comes in from the back entrance, so I positioned myself just right and zapped at the Brotherhood Knights as they came in. Got results with these. As we continued to escape the church, Glory died on us, and that was the first time we really talked. Which is really sad, but I guess the railroad continues to get the short end of the stick on everything. Anyways, the rest of the sewers went well enough. Miniguns were of non-issue because my short statue, I could just dodge all their bullets except for 1 or 2 and take like a minuscule amount of damage. Back at the top, I cleared out the rest of the soldiers, and when I talked to Des about getting revenge, I accidentally zapped the entire leadership and killed them all. Sorry, force of habit. Upon reload, I re-killed all the soldiers and then didn't zap the railroad into the next slide. Then begins the endgame rush for them. We return to the police station and clear out the horde of Brotherhood Knights here. You know, throughout the run, it is quite shocking how effective this gun is. Inside the police station, there was more voltage until the Knights were all cleared out with relative ease. On the rooftop, there was a bunch of mutants that spawned below the police station. Invertebrate up to the third wind, and came across a fun little oopsie. When I went to leave the bird, I fell through the crack, to the ground below. Thankfully, the water catches me. Reloading, and the same thing happens once again. I thought at this point I would have to do the Institute ending, but I remembered there was a spare vertebrate at the airport, and I just hoped it was still there. So I went through and killed every Brotherhood soldier here at the airport. One had a skull next to their name, but really it meant nothing in comparison to their skill issues getting in there. Before long, the ground was cleared out, and the burglar was able to drop me off on a tip. Just one hell of a piece. So for the battle on the Pridwin, I am confident I could take down the entire paramilitary force by myself, and that is what I did. I shot at the people on the outside on the deck, and then I entered the interior. A lot of stripes and some name members came out of the upstairs, but that just made things for easy pickings. Inside the main portion, I blasted any soldier that looked at me. They were all lined up down a long hallway, and I Zeused them from this life into the next. The rest of the ship wasn't quite as exciting. Once everyone was dead, I just crawled around the upstairs planting charges at my very slow pace. Thankfully, they have remote detonation, so I don't have to worry about the escape portion. When I came downstairs, Max and his guards immediately opened fire at me, so I repaid the favor. You see, I can dodge spread fire like it is nothing, so a few zaps and everyone goes down with ease. I escaped the ship, and everyone was panicking at the cover fire. Sorry to break it to Deacon and Tom, but everyone's dead. So at this point, all that is left is the nuclear option for the railroad. One big final battle. That is one long dungeon crawl, I'm really not in the mood right now. So I guess it's time for the secret way to finish the run. I returned to the railroad HQ and blasted at Desmond and everyone else here. I had to restore the